That's right. It's Let's Talk Call-In Radio with Stephen Hurwitz.
Hello.
Charles Schultz.
Yes.
Robin is still recuperating from damaged feet, toes, broken feet. It's just a terrible thing. What's going on? I keep
Poor
seeing
Andy.
Goodness gracious.
Yes. He'll be the workload has increased somewhat, I'm sure. But
This is
yes,
Let's Talk, Radical Radio, getting to the root causes of the important issues of the day. This on-the-air community forum believes, I'm taking issue with some of these commas, we'll talk about that later.
This has to be rewritten.
This on-the-air community forum believes that your voice matters and welcomes all thoughts and views without judgment. I'm not holding myself to that, actually.
Yeah. Please
Please join today's conversation by calling 415-663-8492 or tweet us at Let's Talk on KWMR. So 663-8492. And the topic... is that
the topic is it's all about dog walking, dogs in public spaces. How do we all feel about that? How do we feel about dogs running free? Basically, that's the argument, and even on leash dogs occupying our trail. And just before, let me just read this too. The National Weather Service issuing high wind warning, effect from 8 p.m. till Friday 5 a.m. Stormy system, strong and gusty winds tonight into Friday's strongest winds are expected to occur along the coast in the higher terrain and across the coastal ranges. Sustained southerly winds of 35 to 45 miles an hour. That's a gale. That's going.
So keep your
likely with potential gusts in excess of 60 mile an hour. Gusty winds will make driving difficult, especially for drivers of high-profile vehicles like Vanagons. Downed trees and power lines are also possible during these strong winds. So batten it down, boys.
And keep your dog in a leash in case it flies away. Dogs could be flying through the air.
Well, so
the controversy is what?
It's a global warming issue, though, because the rear end of these animals, methane gas.
Well, there is an excellent political movement called Eat Your Pets, which claims that feeding a medium-sized dog for a year is the equivalent of buying and driving a Toyota truck for 10,000 kilometers a year.
This is not Thailand.
This is not, or North Korea or South Korea for that
That's
matter.
good, but that's part of the question. Is I mean, not just pet walking, but also we're back to pets again, and dogs especially. And part of the problem is the carbon footprint, as you say.
But there's a controversy here, right? Because, say, Millerton, the park up there in South Marshall, is used to allow people to have their dogs in different areas or to have them off-leash or what? I mean,
right. Well, so now they've changed the rules as they put in a new trail around the top of the bluff up there. So now dogs are no longer allowed on the beaches at all. In Millerton, you can't let them run. You can't even have them on a leash, and they have to be on leash up on the trail around the top. Most people, I hate to say it, but maybe I shouldn't say it, but most of them are not obeying the leash laws, of course. And I have to say, let me say from the outset, I was brought up with a dog. I loved the doggy that I had when I was a little boy. I haven't had a dog since because I'm a terribly irresponsible person, basically, and I don't want any of that kind of responsibility, having to wonder how the dog is. But I did look after dogs when I was here, and I'm now with someone who has a lovely dog who needs to run. But I used to be with Donna, who was deathly afraid of dogs jumping up on her just because her skin was so fragile. And she was, towards the end there, she was a little teetery, so to speak. So she was afraid of dogs, even on leash, in case they jumped up on her. While walking at Millerton.
Well, I think it's funny. You see, it depends on the life of the dog. I'll play Peter Singer. It depends on the life of the dog. Sorry to throw the utilitarian philosopher at Princeton. When I see these animals at on ranches and things like that, who spend their life outdoors, who can run around and things like that, and then you listen to I listened to NPR ages ago. And there was a gal on there saying that she has dealt with the issue of having her dog in her apartment all day while she's at work by prescribing the dog anti-anxiety medication. And so the dog gets a pill, and then it's fine. So to me, there's this question of human companionship in an age of sort of alienation and isolation. I think people feel more comfortable with a dog than they do with human beings. You just keep feeding the dog. The dog hangs around. It doesn't judge you. It's not going to run off with your neighbor.
Yes, that might be.
Or whatever, right? It's not going to betray you. You just got to keep feeding it. But this issue is about the local, right? It's about the parks here. Can people take their dogs in parks?
So,
I think it's about change.
yeah.
Change.
Resistance. The park is. They're making moves to change everything.
Well, so here's the thing. There was an article that I saw last weekend, and it concerns the GGNRA, Golden Gate National Recreation Area, which has been, in many parts of it, a real haven for people with dogs, especially in the city, on Ocean Beach there and the Fort Funston, Fort Baker, all that. And GGNRA is updating, or has updated, their rules and regs on it, and they're cutting off dog access to many beaches in the Golden Gate Recreation Area. Many trails. They've opened up little areas where dogs can run free, like at Chrissy Field and the north part of Ocean Beach under the Cliff House. You can run your dogs there. But part of the controversy, I guess, is that by some counts, there are more dogs in San Francisco than there are children now. So,
no surprise there.
Unconditional love. Where do you get that from a child?
Well, you can't have it both ways. If you want to decrease the population of the planet, you have to have cities where they have less children. So, are they replacing the children with dogs as
Good question.
As the demographics change?
I think it's probably perception of cost of living. People don't feel that they can, both have their career and have a family and buy a house and do all those things that they associate with their own upbringing in terms of having a family. And so the dog is there as a kind of proxy for all of that, human life that we feel is cut off to us.
So do we leave the dog at home? I mean, you have a dog. Do you just leave the dog at home when
I think people do, and give them anti-anxiety pills, right?
That's bizarre.
Which they have to give those to your kids, too, now. So
the idea of having a dog that is more than just a little lapdog kind of thing in a city
is pretty cruel, I think.
And you see these Australian sheepdogs and Ridgebacks and Newfies in the city. They take them for a little walk along whatever it is, 9th Street or something. So these are all questions. Why do you own dogs in the city? Why do you own dogs at all? That's another question. Give us a call, 415-663-8492. Let us know, first of all, why you own dogs and what you feel about not being able to take them to many of the beaches around us now, and or on some of the trails. They're not even allowing them on trails except around Bolinas Ridge.
Well, I wonder why is it changing? What is the change philosophy of the National Park?
Allow me to tell you. This is from the Golden Gate GGNRA website. The Bay Area population has increased over 40% since the 1979 pet policy was put in place and is expected to grow another 24% by 2040. Dog management plan protects natural and cultural resources, provides safe, healthy, clean, and fun recreational experiences for all visitors, and preserves our national heritage for future generations. They also talk about 37 federally endangered and threatened species in GGNRA, several of which may be affected by dog walking. The park's growing popularity sometimes results in conflicts between people, dogs, and park resources. Between 2008 2011, 300 dog-related incidents every year were reported. So,
has anybody had, any of the listeners, please call in 663-8492, been a subject of enforcement of these new rules? Has anybody do you get a ticket? What do you get?
So here's the thing. It was supposed to come in March of this year, but there is a website, there's an organization called WooFieLeaks. Yes. Look it up online, folks, WooFieLeaks. And they discovered through Freedom of Information Act that, guess what, the high-enders in the GGNRA, the upper crust there, were using private email servers to do official business, in contact with anti-dog walking organizations coaching them on what to say, how to respond for years now. I mean, this goes back to 2011 or something. They have all these records showing complicity between the federal government and...
Why should they be different from anyone else?
Exactly. But that's held it up. So now there's going to be an inquiry.
Well, that's good. It is funny. How do you pick? Because a lot of the people who have dogs are gazillionaires themselves. So I see a lot of gazillionaire and gazillionaire violence that can... and one side has dogs. So...
Fighting billionaires.
That's... Well, I mean, the people who are... There are lots of affluent people who love their dogs and want to have them in the park.
Leave it to Charles to make this an economic issue.
Well,
I've got
sure
a
it
big
is.
class.
And here's this is comments online about the closure of most of Ocean Beach. This is bull. I've walked our dogs on Ocean Beach since, and he's just going to keep walking his dog and pay the ticket because it's a $125 fine every time. He says, I don't care.
Yeah.
I can afford it. My dog needs to run, man.
Well, I have such mixed feelings about it. I have friends who have dogs, and we go to the beach, and their dogs run, and it's just, all in all, it's a pleasant experience. And on the other hand, I know the implication of animals environmentally, more so rather than pets, but domestic. I mean, livestock, etc. I mean, they're probably one of the more polluting sources on the planet. So on that side, plus we spend $6 billion on pets every year.
$6 billion on
healthcare. This American Life had a piece that would really, you'd never want to stop vomiting when you listen to it, about a woman who had health care insurance for her hedgehog and the difficulty of the surgery and then, of course, of rehabbing the hedgehog after the surgery. Another fellow who had knee replacement surgery for his dog. And, this, perhaps in their world, this makes lots of sense. But to me, it's just grotesque. I mean, it's really insane how there's so many resources dedicated to something I think is relatively trivial, and then insane poverty surrounding that that nobody seems to care about issues like that. So it seems depraved to me, a lot of it. But we didn't have dogs growing up. We had cats because the eldest sibling got to pick the pets, and my eldest sibling, my sister, wanted cats. In fact, when I was born, my grandfather came back from the hospital and told my siblings that they had a new little brother, and my sister said, I wanted a cat, and went up to her room.
Now we know how you are.
This explains so much.
So, and I like cats, but cats are, one of the leading causes of avian death in the country. And so, I don't know. I mean, they seem like trivial issues to me compared to so many other things that we don't hold in high enough regard, right? We hold this way up at the top, how important it is, our relationship to our pets, or the pet's impact on the ecology. And then, the fact that we had to drive to the beach with the pet.
Exactly. I mean, everyone drives now to Dillon Beach, where you can let... should I be saying this? Yes, you can let them run free on the beach, which is incredible for this dog.
Well, people who drive to bicycle, the people who drive to windsurf, the people who drive...
drive to cycle,
drive to dinner.
And then
that's no good
roads.
either.
Oh, no, don't get me started.
Do you love your dog? Do you want to walk your dog on the beach with a leash, without a leash? Please call us, tell us your opinion, 415-663-8492.
Can active dogs survive if they're only walked on leash?
I want to make a plug for tweeting us, because many people might not want to talk on the radio.
I don't have the tweet box with me because
then I won't push tweeting.
No, we won't recognize your voice anyway. You'd give us a false name if that's what's worrying.
Yeah, it just kind of makes people nervous.
Don't be nervous. We're such nice people.
That's right.
Call us 12415-663-8492. I know there's a lot of dog owners out there, and a lot of them let their dogs run free against the leash laws, and I'm kind of all for that, because dogs need to run. But what is the impact on wildlife, even at Millerton, where there are no deer, probably because it's been a dog walking place for so long that the deer don't even cross the road to go there. There are birds, there are gophers, there's rabbits, and
Well, the cattle ranchers hate dogs. People's dogs chase their cows.
Well, they can shoot them. That's
they can. But that's another issue. If you live here, because I can think of at the top of my head many places you'd have to drive to get to them, but many places you could go which are never monitored, even if they are state parks that are never monitored. Some of these are on private property as well, but that you could take a dog and take it off leash. So if you're savvy, I think you could always probably get away with this. But
well, so here's Heart's Desire. Dogs are not permitted on any beaches or trails in Heart's Desire, which must be a little disappointing for people who come to the park from outside unless they've checked the Tomales Bay State Park website beforehand. Maybe they all do.
You can park outside of Heart's Desire and sneak in. Very easily done. Right at the entrance to, what is that, Shell Beach, whatever the one's further than the
Rebel.
Well,
Shell Beach, dogs are not permitted on any beaches or trails in the area. Militant Point, dogs are not permitted on the beach but are allowed on the loop trail while on leash. Dogs are not allowed on any of the beaches or trails at Tomales Bay State Park. Dogs are allowed only at the Vista Point picnic area and must be on leash at all times. So that's on the bay here.
And is there any, like, lemon tour? Can you have a dog?
Lemon tour. I have a map of the park. Dogs are allowed on the southeastern part of Lemon Tour, which is they're calling Santa Maria Beach. Lemon Tour still on the Great Beach, on North Beach and South Beach out there, and at Kehoe, and on the Bolinas Ridge Trail. Elsewhere in the park, they're not allowed on trails or beaches, on leash or not.
We have a caller.
We have a caller. Caller, you are on the air. What's your name, please?
My name is Fred.
Fred?
Add one thing. Paul, you know me. We were in the same London phone book together. But I just wanted to suggest, and perhaps a provocative piece that was written on Radio Free Europe, that in Makhachkala, the capital of the North Caucasus Republic of Dagestan, they are having to execute the dogs because they are pack animals, and if they're allowed to run free forever in perpetuity, they will form packs, and they will, amazingly enough, even if they have health insurance or not, attack the humans. So I'd like to hear your panel discuss that point. I'm not calling for this, by the way, necessarily to execute the dogs, but I am saying perhaps there is a slippery slope here if you don't keep them on the leash.
Well, are these packs of feral dogs or what? These are.
Well, this is the real world. Well, there is the real world, much more so than our world here, where we have all these wonderful accoutrements and so forth, and modern life, especially out your way.
It would be more like, Dad, can I go out tonight?
Well,
in my pack.
People, if you can't afford the dog at some point, or if a dog has, several cubs or whatever they are, puppies, I guess they call them.
Puppies.
And, they just end up running feral. Yeah, but the dogs will form packs.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I've seen this firsthand in Romania, where there was a move to build lots of apartment buildings in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and the Romanians call them matchboxes. Anyway, people were forced into these apartment buildings, and what they did, because there was no anti-anxiety medication apparently for the dogs, is they just turned their dogs loose. So now it's a huge problem. I mean, when I was in Romania, the two guys that were with them, they were like, we're going to sleep out in this field. I was like, oh, that's great, because I'll be sleeping in the back of the car. And sure enough, at about 2 a.m., like 100 dogs run through, surround the car. They come running back to the car, and their dogs were, and they're rabid in many cases. So if you get bitten by a dog as a tourist, say as an American in Romania, you can get the required series of shots to deal with rabies. But if you were a native Romanian, one of them informed me, you actually have to capture the dog, behead it, and bring its head to a clinic for testing in order to get the shots. They don't make the Americans do that. But, so, I mean, there was a situation where an agrarian society, a peasant society, a rural society in which dogs served a function in terms of protecting a house or blah, 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 now forced into apartment buildings. They just didn't take the dogs with them. They turned the dogs loose. And so it's a huge problem there. And they want to be humane about it, right? Because they don't want to, just shoot all the dogs. So they try and do sterilization campaigns and things like that. But they haven't been very effective in bringing it under control.
Do we have dog catchers?
Can I ask one more question, then I'll leave so somebody else can call the program?
I'm glad somebody else is interrupting Stephen now, not just me. Anyway, go on.
I love to interrupt. That's what's so great about the show.
My question is this, that people are so concerned about the dogs, seems more so than humans, or disproportionately so. If the dog has a soul, I'd like to interject that into the conversation. Maybe some callers could call in and say whether or not it does, or they think it does. If the dog has a soul, I heard one gentleman talk about population control. Will that resurrect the pro-life movement in San Francisco if they find out the dog has a soul?
Boy. I think the thing is that that's from a Judeo-Christian perspective, and what you can buy out here in West Marin is a Buddha with a dog head. So really the question is, can dogs attain nirvana? I think we should be asking
Barry Goldwater speak at the Cloud Palace in '64?
Yes, and if we can get dogs on a vegetarian diet of just a few grains of rice, like Siddhartha Gautama, perhaps we can deal with that carbon issue, Stephen.
Excellent.
Yeah,
rice-eating
not to mention...
Thank you, gentlemen. Bye.
Thank you, Fred.
Thank you, caller.
It is a
Yes,
huge
please.
ecological problem, though, because they're mining the oceans, and a lot of these fish they're taking out really are just
Going straight to dog food. Or
cat and dog food, pet food.
Yeah.
Which is where the sardines from, or the herring from Tamales Bay used to go.
And yet I'm conflicted. I think they should be able to run free. In some places, I think they should make accommodations for that.
Okay.
Does anyone have a dog lover? Can we get a dog lover to please call in and state the case for dogs?
Do dogs have souls? That's the question raised by the listener, by the caller. Do call 415-663-8492. When you call in, you'll hear this funny little weird hissy noise as I put you in the system. Just hang on until I say you're on the air, and then give us your name, and please keep the language clean.
You talked about dog lovers. It's easier to love a dog than it is a human being.
If you change the concept of love. If you redefine love in terms of just staring and drooling, yeah. And that's a part of love. Don't get me wrong. Staring and drooling can be great. but that's to say that the relationship
That's always my secret.
Exactly. The relationship between humans and animals, a different relationship. And sorry for my remorselessly anthropocentric view.
Dogs love you because you give them food.
Because you feed them, yes. Give me your dog and a 50-pound bag of dog food. I'll change their name in 2 weeks. They won't even remember you. Well, maybe.
You know, my neighbor had working dogs.
Yeah.
They earn their living.
Matter. Yeah.
Put them to work.
Yeah,
exactly.
No, working dogs,
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they used to be for. That's why they're with us.
Some of them are smarter than their owners.
And now they see huskies walking in the city on a leash with, just madness having these big dogs in the city.
Well, I mean, this is
greyhounds and borzois and all those other sort of status
Rescue
symbols.
greyhounds. Can you imagine rescuing a dog that is used to being in a race?
Oh, boy. Yeah, no, I know people who took in rescue greyhounds, but I can't imagine what it was like to raise them. But my classic illustration of the change is that, now we give our children dog names and our dogs children's names. So, these are Weimaraners, Clarence and Elizabeth, and these are my son and daughter, Boomer and Scout.
Won't someone please call in and object to all this facetiousness about things that they love?
It's not facetious. It's real. It happens.
My son Spot.
Well, no, I mean, Paul Elmore did an essay for that other show tomorrow at 1 p.m., incidentally.
We've heard of that.
In which he talks about a long-term shift in pet names. And the shift is from...
very interesting.
The shift is from the sort of classic pet name that we think of, Spot, Fido, whatever, to more human names.
Camilla.
Indeed. I am Charles and you are my Camilla. Dog lovers, call in.
Please do call in, or dog haters, whatever. If you've had a confrontation on a trail or a beach, addressing the pack animal thing in Marin County open space anyway, and I think this is going to be true of the GGNRA program as well. Maximum of 3 dogs, even if they're on leash. Because, dogs, when they get together, they tend to go a bit batty. Dog walkers, therefore, are objecting to this whole thing because they're walking 10 at a time in the city.
Well, you'll get an interesting thing because of the tourism as well. In the 7 years that I've been here, the amount of people that camp out on the other side of the bay for me, and yes, I still do put the speakers in the window and play mariachi music quite loudly on occasion for them to enhance their experience of nature. That just exploded. And you also have coyotes out there, and you have people with their food and things like that.
Yeah.
A lot of the people that I talked to were concerned. People people who like coyotes. We're concerned that one of those coyotes is going to bite a tourist,
Right.
and then there's going to be a huge call of coyotes. So the park that's saying, we'll keep the dogs out because that's disturbing nature, is going to say, well, we got to kill these coyotes because they're biting the tourists.
They are nature.
Yeah, well, right. I mean, well, who is and who isn't, I guess. It's...
Well, apparently we are.
right, we can be there, but anything that bites can't, right? Biting things have to go, and maybe dogs too, because they bite.
Part of the plan with the GGNRA was that they're changing because historically you've always been allowed to have dogs run free on fire roads, fire access roads. They're changing the names of those fire access roads to trails. They're calling them trails, and so there's a lot of things in this plan that have got people upset. If you're at GGNRA, call in, please. 12415-663-8492. Just let us give us. I think I have all the reasons all written down here, but anyway, for example, dogs are not permitted at McNear's Beach, Paradise Beach, or Stafford Lake. I did not know that.
They can go to Kehoe, can't they? You can have dogs at Kehoe.
Yes.
Yeah, Kehoe, yes.
Kehoe's in.
And Stinson.
On leash.
Stinson Beach?
Stinson,
Running free?
No more.
No.
No more. Under this plan, no dogs allowed at all at Stinson, even on leash. And in places where they're allowed, Muir Beach, you can walk them on leash when the plan comes in. When this plan comes in, they're going to spend, I forget how many million, I think 26 million to hire extra officers, officer rangers, law enforcement rangers, and they will be allowed, for instance, at Chrissy Field, where dogs can run free, they will be ordered to approach owners, put them through a test of whether the dog comes back when they call, and if not, they'll give them a ticket.
Caller.
Hello, caller. You are on the air. What's your name, please?
Hi, this is Gail.
Gail.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
We're all well. We're all smiling.
Good.
What about dogs,
Yeah.
Gail? What's the scoop?
Well, I am not, I like dogs, and I don't have any dog, but I've never actually felt personally that they were intrusive. It seems like there's certain beaches that have a more family, kind of a playful atmosphere, when the dogs are running around, and I've never found so many, that it's really been that intrusive as far as the experience goes. I mean, there's plenty of places to go where there are no dogs, and it's nice to include them, on occasion. I guess I'm a little surprised by the intensity, of all of the case that's made against them. And
Yes, it's huge in the city. It's mostly in the city.
Who are the Woofy Leaks people?
Oh, I don't know. They're from San Francisco.
People have pets, and they're part of their families. They don't have to be over dramatized. Their affection for them or how they fit in. I mean, there's always a spectrum of extremes, I guess, on both ends. But in general, people have a dog, and they go on a hike, and they bring their pets because animals run, and being in nature is kind of normal.
I think, as usual, it's where dog owners are suffering from the bad apples, right? The ones who have no control over their ridiculously large and aggressive or over-friendly dogs that will jump up on you or run through your
clean up after them.
Terrible.
But you know what? I'm also especially surprised at regulating Stinson. I mean, where all the people who live actually on the beach have dogs. Many of them have dogs or rent their houses to people, and I mean, it's almost incredible to imagine not being able to bring your dog to the beach.
So they won't be able to let them out. You mean they'll have to leave them in the house with anxiety medication when they go out to the beach? The dog will be able to see them from the window.
No, they'll have somebody that lives in the house to take care of the dog.
It's an employment program. There it is. How can we?
Does for the dog therapist?
Yes.
Exactly.
They do have dog therapists.
Employment.
No.
See, great employment boost.
Well, you had a dog, didn't you, Gail?
I've had dogs, quite a long time ago. But like I said, I think they're sweet. I don't mind having them around on occasion. I mean, I can imagine, if they were running everywhere freely, but I don't find that it's a problem to go to a single place where there might be dogs.
Yeah.
Did you bond with your dog?
Oh, yeah.
Would you take them to the vet for expensive medical care?
I don't think they're related.
Liver transplant.
Yeah,
Don't laugh.
Yeah, that's
What do you
not
mean?
out of the question.
What do you mean? That exists?
Sure.
Jeez, oh Pete. Okay,
Oh,
well,
they'll do anything for doggies and kitties these days. So
Yeah.
if they can afford it, if not, then they
Well-
dump them somewhere.
But I don't think the two issues are really related. I mean,
No, well,
walking your dog and having open heart surgery for your dog. I just don't feel like they're quite in the same league.
no, I guess not.
Well, except it's the fascination with pets, or the need for that kind of companionship, and why why don't you get it from people?
Well, it's a competitive society. I mean, increasingly competitive society, which is filled with all of these zero-sum games. Whatever you get, I don't get. Whatever I get is something taken from you. And it's a way of looking at life, but it's baked into our society now, which people are extremely competitive. And so given this assumption of competitiveness, which, as I say, is just sort of baked into the culture, then there can be no human loyalty. There can be no no partnership in that sense, or it becomes increasingly rare and untenable.
So you really think it's an either-or game? I mean, you don't think there are... I mean, I was just with someone who got a puppy for their 9-year-old son's birthday, and it doesn't seem to be... I mean, it seems inclusive. It doesn't seem exclusive, and yet it definitely was cute.
I'm not saying that dogs. I've met dogs that I liked, but I just say that
some of my best friends.
Some of my best friends are dogs, indeed. And
Where would Facebook be without dogs?
I don't do Facebook, so I don't know. Dog book. I mean, but
Dogs
dog
cuddling children and cats.
Yeah, I think it's an increasingly kind of stressed out, burnt out society, which has implicit in it this thing that all humans will betray you, and that's just the nature of human beings. So here is this thing, right, that's not going to do that. Here is this thing that's, not going to betray you, not going to leave you for somebody else, not going to...
No offense, but have you noticed that the language when people speak to their pets changes? People don't speak normally to their pets.
Baby talk?
People,
Yeah.
doggy, woggy. I'm in a play, a Sherlock Holmes play, in which
okay.
Dr.
So how
Watson
about-
gets all gooey over a puppy, yes. Anyway,
I have just been with my mom in an assisted living, and they have a puppy there who snuggles up with the clients, or they pet him, and they all think
Well,
he's
that's
so cute.
lovely.
And in a way, it's a way of adding in connection and affection.
yeah, well, that could
Therapeutic.
come under the classification of a service animal, right? I mean, someone companion doggies
Enslaved.
for the old, for the aged.
I know this
Lovely.
is another subject, but as long as we're on dogs, these comfort dogs, I find that phenomenon very disturbing.
What do you mean?
Wasn't
is
that a
comfort dog?
Japanese thing during the war? Wasn't that?
No.
Oh, sorry.
Gracious. That was they ate those dogs, unfortunately, and then the people too. The what do you mean comfort dogs? Isn't that just a dog?
You like service dogs, right?
No, people with a comfort dog, you can take the dog into places that would not normally allow animals because psychologically a doctor has determined that you need this dog fills this hole.
It is crazy. I can see lions in the kitchen right now. I need some comfort champagne. I need to be allowed into places without that you normally wouldn't allow champagne, but in this case, I think is medically necessary.
I would definitely sign up for that.
And you're a doctor. This is great.
Exactly.
I'll look forward to that note. My comfort.
All right, I'm going to let you guys keep going.
Thank you, Gail. Thanks
You're
for
a
calling.
pleasure.
Thank you, Gail.
Bye now.
Bye.
Okay, this
See you
is
later.
KWMR.
Home of medically necessary comfort champagne.
90.5 Point Reyes Station, 89.9 Bolinas, 92.3 San Geronimo Valley, streaming live on kwmr.org. And KWMR is excited to announce the 4th annual Eat My Heart Out on Saturday, April 22nd at the Peace Barn in Bolinas. This supper club-style event integrates a five-course meal with live storytelling performances, each course corresponding thematically with the stories. Thanks to Thackeray and Company winemakers for their sponsorship. This year's lineup of storytellers includes Francis McDormand, Mark Buell, Nashama Franklin, Eugene Ashton Gonzalez, and Mia Johnson. Proceeds benefit KWMR. Tickets now available through the events page of kwmr.org. And media support for KWMR is provided by the Point Reyes Light, an independent and locally owned newspaper telling West Marin stories since 1948, featuring award-winning reporting, essays, opinions, a community events calendar, and the sheriff's calls. Office and newsroom open Monday through Thursday in downtown Inverness. Subscription, classifieds, calendar, and advertising information, plus letter to the editor forms, are available at ptreyslight.com. That's PTREYES light.com, or at 415-669-1200. And KWMR is also supported by West Marin Food and Farm Tours, offering culinary adventures in the Point Reyes area. Trips include local history, behind-the-scenes tours, and tastings of cheese, wine, oysters, grass-fed meats, pastries, produce, and more. Details available online at foodandfarmtours.com. That's foodandfarmtours.com. And National Weather Service is issuing a high wind warning in effect from 8 p.m. until 5 a.m. in the morning. A storm system will bring strong and gusty winds tonight into Friday. The strongest winds are expected to occur along the coast. Higher terrain and across the coastal ranges, winds will diminish slightly by Friday afternoon, but will remain gusty as another system moves through Friday night. Oh boy. Sustained southerly winds of 35 to 45 miles an hour are likely, with potential gusts in excess of 60 miles an hour. Down trees and power lines are also possible during these strong winds, so tie everything down on your deck.
Tie your mother down.
Is this a...
Check the mooring lines on your yacht.
The wind machine is going up to 9. Better be a good high winds actor. Talking dogs, Stephen Hurwitz, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, is this another incident of overreaching government?
Well, I would say so, but I have a pretty libertarian view. You have a quote from John Rawls here. I think I might be more on the Robert Nozick side of that, if anybody remembers the Rawls-Nozick debate of the early 70s. Not Lou Rawls, John.
Oh,
Lou Rawls. Lady Love. And your all Lou Rawls afternoon soul swing is going to start here at 2 p.m. with special host Janet Robbins. Anyway, what is you brought in Rawls?
Yeah, I better read it though.
Oh, come on, let's have it.
I have to read it first.
No, do a cold read. Come now.
Oh, you want me to read it?
You're on radio.
This is more towards the common good, which I was thinking about.
This is the government, common good, meaning the government steps into...
He defined the common good as certain general conditions that are equal for everyone's advantage. But we live in a society where the fundamental social problems grow out of widespread pursuit of individual pursuits.
Yeah.
So it's hard to have a common good today.
Well, there's no, as I said many times in this show, there is no society, right? Margaret Thatcher, Ronald Reagan, they were kind of this hologram created by the idea that all society is individuals and maybe their families and their dogs. But the idea of a collectivity, the idea of a community, was really bled out of our self-conception, our understanding of who we are and what we do. So I
can't agree. I think we create our own communities, and I think it's possible. I think in Point Reyes Station, this area, it would be an example of
sentimental connections between people. Playdates. If that's community, then community doesn't mean anything.
You are so cynical.
It's not cynicism at all. It's idealism.
Oh.
We have a caller.
Tie your dog down. The wind's coming up. Hello, caller. You're on the air. What's your name, please?
Sally.
Sally.
Hello.
Hello.
Greetings. I have not been listening, and I apologize for that.
Well, thank you so
Stephen
much,
hates dogs.
No, I find myself on the other side. I'm surprised that I do.
Okay. So tell us, caller, about dogs. What's going on?
Well, the situation about dogs and being able to walk dogs without leash or with leash, anywhere for that matter. I don't know how much you've covered this in the show, and I apologize again for not listening up until this moment. But I am very much in favor of dogs needing to be able to run around off-leash, not just in dog parks, which in fact are often troublesome places because you get too many dogs and it's a little
in
scary.
A confined area.
Yeah, it's it doesn't feel safe to me I who own a very submissive dog. But I like places like a beach where you can see an expanse the dog can zoom around or stop and sniff obsessively for minutes on end.
Chase the ball.
Well, yeah, sure. Chase balls and fetch sticks, whatever. But I don't know if you talked about the problem of tennis balls and the...
Not yet. I was just, yeah.
Well, what is the problem?
This is the ranger. Well, Paul can talk about this. The ranger said that there were too many tennis balls that was a big trash issue now. Tennis balls on the beach.
Well, they throw them in the water for the dog, and if the dog doesn't get them, then they drift away and they end up in little coves, you know.
The trash, that's a whole new subject.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? So then you have to have tennis camp for turtles or something.
Well, that's a good point about the flat terrain places like the beach where you can keep an eye on your dog. He's not
You can
disappearing.
keep an eye. It's neutral territory, so all the dogs seem to be happy and get along, which is a big component. And there aren't any critters other than birds to terrorize and chase.
But
so
they do chase the birds.
Yeah, but the birds are just like, bye-bye, I'm flying away.
Birds fly, right?
You know, they take a powder. So the thing is, when you let your dogs off leash up in the hills, then the dogs chase the indigenous little creatures, and that is terrible. I always feel terrible when my dog takes off and chases a deer or a family of deer, particularly if they're little fawn.
Sally, what do you think? How do you feel about the single packaged dog waste? That's these little blue bags that people.
Exactly.
How do you feel about those? You see those in the on the way to the beach and on the way back from the beach?
I was actually going to mention that also as my second part of my comment, because you're right.
Keep it clean, please.
People are leaving those on trails, or they think that somehow it's okay if you package the poop.
And then leave it.
Leave it. So I can never figure out if people
single serving
poop because they're going to come back that same way and pick it up, and they just don't want to be burdened by the poop and the aroma and the stigma of carrying it. I don't care. I carry it with me everywhere. But I think that's a huge offense and a huge problem, because not only do you have poop, which is very upsetting to all the creatures because it confuses the indigenous free-roaming creatures about their territory,
right?
Because there's all this proliferation of dog poop. But also, then you add into it the obscenity of plastic.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is a bigger problem than anything. There's this huge number of bags you see on trails. And unless you're going to be a really good citizen and just pick them up as you go, which I don't really know of anyone doing, it's a problem.
Of course, it's a problem.
Yeah, that's a big problem.
Can I ask you, Sally? I don't get around much anymore, but maybe you and somebody who would have had this experience in recent years. I'm told that Paris is sort of overwhelmed by unpackaged dog poo.
It always has been.
Always has been.
It was a major issue in San Francisco years ago.
It got better for a while.
They got better for a while.
It did get better, and I've actually been to Paris many times in the past several years, and I have seen an improvement, and I've seen people utilize the little doggy bags.
Oh.
And also, there is a class structure to the picking up of poop that has existed there, which is if you're in a building with a doorman, the doorman, I understand, will walk around and
clean up the sidewalk.
That's lovely.
Well, no, it will take dog owners to task.
Oh,
I see.
And that they will not repudiate, but just sort of whatever the word.
Point out the error of their way.
Yeah, exactly. So I've heard that if you're in a nice enough building with a sort of with a guy, a doorman type guy, yeah.
Perfect solution for the Bay Area. Our parks need doormen.
The concierge.
Exactly.
Where's the park concierge to
Now,
wagons, maybe.
I think there's even etiquette to where you throw the poop, like which trash cans you're using. So there's a whole, this whole proliferation of pet ownership has really unleashed, if you will, bad pun, a whole kind of a myriad of weird little social problems.
Such as putting poop in your trash can on their way past.
The
little bags,
of where you're putting the poop. Yeah.
I don't understand. They put them in the wrong cans, you mean? Or what's...
Well, sure, people run around putting them in each other's trash cans.
Throwing them at the windows.
For example, actually, I have a feisty neighbor who might like to throw his bag of poop at a speeding car, sure. But,
well.
Or wait, was that me?
Oh, indeed.
No, I think that, for example, I take my dog to a school, a big grassy area after school and an elementary school, and I'm self-conscious and careful about what trash receptacle I'm putting the poop in. Like, you don't really want to put it in the trash can by the school building where the kids are, for example, putting their lunch, the remains of their lunch or something. I don't know. It's just sort of bad form.
It brings up an interesting question, though, is do we prohibit activities or do we try and accommodate them in a way that is more socially acceptable?
Yeah. Or
it's not just dogs.
What are you? Where are you? You're in the wind.
Sorry, I'm driving. Should I can go away now.
There's a wind advisory. Are you being blown away? If you need rescuing, say, I believe Louisiana is the Pelican State.
I can tell you the Louisiana state dog is the Catahoula.
Oh, really? Do we have a state dog in California? I'd like to know what a Catahoula is anyway, but...
Catahoula.
It's a really fine-looking...
That's our safe word.
Gorgeous dog. I should let you go so that I don't implode the on-air studio with my wind.
Well, it is a closed room, and the ventilation is pretty poor. Improved recently. But I'd say, is there a California state dog? Do you know?
I don't
know. Look it up. You've got the
yeah,
I
computer.
do.
You've got the laptop. Thank you, Sally.
Thank you.
Drive carefully now.
Thank you. Have a fabulous show.
Aye. Yes, and I actually deposited Camilla at the dog sitter's house today. I don't know if she wants to tell everyone that she's a dog sitter, so, there's all that. And then she was going to take several dogs to Dillon Beach because that's where you have to drive now to let them run free.
That's another issue, the expense of owning a dog.
The expense. And the
dog sitters.
The food. Where does all the food come from?
How much? Well, that's a big issue.
Well, there's a guy in Marshall who makes dog food. True story. We shouldn't say more than that, I suppose. No California state dog.
What?
But there are only, I believe, about a dozen states that have state dogs, and our caller was indeed correct. The Catahoula leopard dog is, since 1979, the state dog of Louisiana.
And it's a working dog of some kind, I suppose? A hunting dog?
No. They may have been at one time. Actually, animals that were bred for ranch work are a lot nicer than animals that were bred for hunting. So, most of those terriers are pretty, they're raised, or chihuahuas or dachshunds or whatever. That lineage is one of clenching and
going down burrows and grabbing onto whatever's down there and dragging it back out. That's very, very feisty, very nasty.
There's
bulldogs and the
mastiffs.
The thing about docking tails is so that they will turn faster to protect themselves in a fight because they were in dog fights.
Are you saying if it won't fit in a teacup, then it's not permissible?
No. There are lots of big dogs that are very, very nice.
Maybe. I don't know. What do you do?
I don't know where to stand on the dog thing. I would say, generally speaking, yes, people try and invest They anthropomorphize. They invest these dogs with human attributes and emotions that may or may not be present. But that's okay. People having dogs, like I say, some of my best friends are dogs. That means I just know 2 dogs I like, and neither of them can afford to live in Westmoreland. I don't know, West Oakland. I forget what these dogs are.
Listen, you can't say Trump here, and you can't talk about
you just
not being
said
able
a word
to
of the day.
You can't talk about not being able to afford to live here.
But see, Steve, this is what I mean when you say community. I mean that's a sentimental play date you're on. You are not economically engaged with those people that you have your play dates with in Point Reyes. That's separate. But that's my larger question: is that the dog stands in place of something that we idealize about our relationships with other human beings, but don't feel is accessible anymore, which is about fidelity, which is about loyalty.
True enough.
Yeah. So.
The falling apart of the family structure.
No, not the family structure. I mean, mind you,
so.
because Thatcher and all that, they're fine with the family.
Kids leave, the dogs never leave.
Oh, well, this is an old existential joke, right? Or you support children all their life and then they outlive you. I don't have that problem with a dog. So, in a way, it's existentially perfect.
But you have a tendency to describe things like everybody or...
Well, why not? Everybody but me. How about that? I'll qualify it for you. No, not everybody. I'm talking about general trends.
The fact that dogs have a shorter life than we do is also good training for the passage of time and the experience of death and how to deal with death.
The ultimate, yes. The
people
comfort.
take their dog or their animal passing very, very...
I know. Wow.
I've seen some people be quite ruthless, too, so that goes both ways on that.
Well, what is this business of putting your animal away, though? I mean, that's a whole other thing.
What, putting them down?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, dogs get old.
Euthanasia.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that sort of normal? I guess they would just die on their own if you let them. I think what their argument is that they'd
Put
suffer
them out
less.
of pain. Yeah.
I recently took care of a dog that was on 3 very powerful painkillers a day. The dogs seem happy, but I got to tell you, I mean, if I was on those things, I'd be happy too.
So animals can take pharmaceuticals that are not permissible for human beings.
Well, ketamine is for dogs, but humans take it too to make them as stupid as dogs. I think it works wonders. But yeah, I don't know. That's dogs are.
Anyway, so there will be greater restrictions on dog walking in GGNRA, for example, and I don't know what the regs are in the city. I'm guessing you cannot allow dogs to run free at all anywhere in a city, right? Or even here, right?
In Boulder,
Point Reyes Station, can you allow your dog to run free?
As long as it bites one of the inhabitants, it's fine.
A lot of dogs that are not on leash here.
Well, no, Boulder, Colorado experimented with this. So I was working
pay more attention.
with Boulder in 2011. They were experimenting with just as you described. It was a system in which you could have a dog off a leash and like a variety of public settings. But there would be a dog patrol that would come and give your dog a test. And if the dog failed the test, they would print you out a ticket for this, which just sounded utterly absurd to me in 2011. Now is apparently the norm. My other favorite, when I lived in Ann Arbor, Michigan, very similar to Boulder, was, what is this?
Check Twitter.
Twitter.
I don't have the tweet box. Let me, okay.
All right.
Keep going.
Okay, so in Ann Arbor, Michigan, a very well-meaning member of the city council will put forward a piece of legislation, would be a Bill of Rights, and this meeting went on until after midnight because they had to define questions of that it would be necessary as a part of the pet's Bill of Rights that you provide meaningful companionship to your pet. And so another councilman asked, what would it mean to provide meaningful companionship to a fish? And the person who sponsored the bill began to cry, and it's about 1 a.m. at this point. So this it does in a way get back to roles. I mean, it does in a way. Can we perfectly legislate so that we can perfectly manage human beings and their relationships with each other and their relationships with their pets, et cetera? And I don't know.
Well, that's a reversal, though.
Probably not.
You know what? I just discovered I don't have Twitter on my laptop.
Can I just type in Twitter? How about Twitter?
Then you have to. No, we don't have time. We've got to go through.
Mia, tell us what they said on Twitter. Come back here.
Tell us what they said.
Put your storytelling, ability on display. Oh, here she is.
Yes.
Well, I know we're down to the wire here.
Yeah.
I was just wondering what you guys think about dogs in restaurants, because I know we've been talking about sort of like public natural spaces, but there's like the whole airplanes, restaurants, and I know there's all these privacy laws with you're not able to ask people if they have the documentation. So like working in a restaurant, it's really frustrating because people can just say that they have the documentation, because you're not legally allowed to.
Like for rabies.
You don't have to provide proof. So it's just this kind of awkward bind. So I had a situation where somebody had a pit bull and it bit someone because he said he had papers, but we weren't able to legally ask him. So I don't know. I just think that's a whole other realm that's not in a natural sphere, but more in the.
This was inside in a restaurant or outdoor?
It's just a tricky thing because people legitimately have reasons for having them, but then
can't
it
you
kind of
just
puts
say
people in a bad situation.
No dogs in my restaurant? Can't you make that policy?
You can't legally say that.
You can't make a policy with no
animals. You can't legally
animals?
ask for proof of the paperwork.
I thought
so it's kind of a bind.
I actually thought it was illegal to have dogs, pets in restaurants.
That's right.
It's not. It's
store.
really. It's a tough one. Yeah. So sorry. I know we don't have enough time to go over that, but I just wanted to mention that
it's a disability issue, though, right, Mia?
Exactly.
Oh,
yeah. So I mean, it's one of those binds where there's some good reasons for it, but it also puts people who own businesses in a really tough situation because you legally aren't able to ask.
To see.
Or you can ask, but you can't require them to show you.
Wow.
So, I just wanted to put that out there.
Interesting. Thank you,
It's
man.
a phenomenon, like gluten-free.
Well,
that counts as a caller, by the way. That counts as a caller.
Yes, it does. We get points. And that is, of course, what's going to happen in GGNRA. There will be these extra officers added who will ask for proof of rabies shot, proof of ownership, proof of all the paperwork. And if it's off-leash, they will have a test of whether the dog responds, and you can put the leash on it and all that sort of stuff. So, and if not, you get a ticket, $125. There you go. Anyway, this has been Let's Talk. Call-in radio. KWMR does not take a stand on any of the issues discussed on Let's Talk. Opinions expressed on this program are those of the hosts and callers and don't necessarily reflect the views of KWMR, its board of directors, underwriters, or members. And I'm Paul Raffel. Stephen Hurwitz was
Thank
here.
you.
Charles Schultz was here.
Thank you so much.
Robin is still lying somewhere with her feet up in the air.
That sounds great.
recuperating.
Can I get that? What kind of injury is this?
With her kitties.
And Andy, let's not forget Andy.
Andy. Bearing up, Andy.
That's right.
Okay.
Her adorable retriever.
That was Let's Talk for this week. Tune in every Thursday, 11 a.m. till noon, won't you?